Everyone has a story.
Pretty crazy evening. Hustle and see the fire that has fallen.
We all take a different path and face different hurdles. I'm your host, Sarah Strackhouse, and in this show, I get to interview inspiring women who are dedicated to making change.
The world is tough, so be tough.
Welcome to the Strackhouse. Welcome back. Thanks so much for joining us. Our next guest has been referred to as the Sheryl Sandberg of the energy industry, and she's truly a trailblazer and also the CEO of Pink Petro. Katie Mehnert, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me, Sarah.
Absolutely. We're so excited you're on. I want to talk to you a little bit about your professional career before Pink Petro and what it was like working in a place that's an industry that's an especially male-dominated industry.
Well, it's a great question. Honestly, until that moment, that fateful moment when I was sitting next to a gentleman who asked me what I was doing in a dark and dangerous business like energy, I really hadn't thought much of it. I had heard other women struggling with being around or being in a male-dominated industry. For me, after working in the field, working in the office, it was all kind of the same. But I was inspired by this conversation I had with him, and we decided to pursue a conversation on why I chose the energy industry as a path. And it was then and there when I made the decision that I was going to have to leave the industry in order to change it.
Wow, I love that. So tell me a little bit why you did join the energy industry and then how you created Pink Petro. What is Pink Petro for those who might not have heard of it yet? But I know it's huge and global, so I'm excited to hear more.
No, so Sarah, it is. So first of all, how did I get into the energy industry? So since I was a child, I grew up in the oil and gas industry. My father is an engineer and worked several years back in the 80s in the last bust that we had, one of the major busts that the industry's seen. When he lost his jobs in the 80s, that he was pretty insistent, maybe you should go down a different path. And I did for a short while until I got the call to work at Enron many years ago, and pretty much went against his wishes and got into the energy business and have been in it since.
Okay, and I know I've learned a little bit about Pink Petro. I enjoyed doing stories with you in the past. Tell everyone what is Pink Petro and the mission of it.
So Pink Petro was a cocktail napkin idea that I came up with on a flight with, we call him Bubba. So I don't remember Bubba's real name, but I call him Bubba. He was my Bubba. And I have to thank this man because he changed the trajectory of my life. But I was sitting on a flight between Houston and London, actually London and Houston. And he asked me, he said, "Where's your husband?" And I said, "My husband's at home." And he said, "Well, what do you do for a living?" And I explained to him that I was in health and safety at BP. He said to me, "What's a pretty young lady like you doing in a dark, dangerous business like oil?" And I thought, I am so going to change to this. I'm tired of hearing women can't do, women and men can't do each other's jobs. There's a whole host of things that both men and women can do in the energy industry. So let's put that off to the side. But really the other part that I was fascinated with was this dark and dangerous narrative. I asked him a few more questions and I realized that he was in the industry too. And we need to be advocates for what we do. We need to own the fact that we are an industry that helps sustain life. And so I said, I'm going to create this digital community. And I want to make it a place where people want to talk about what we do, but also learn about what we do so that we can engage more people to be a part of it. As you know, the world is concerned about climate change. Oil and gas companies are right there with society. They want to see that we live a sustainable, profitable, prosperous future. But that's going to take a lot of hearts and minds. It's going to take a lot of diversity and inclusion. It's going to take a lot of ingenuity, and that comes down to people. So I created Pink Petro as a way to get women engaged in the business, to get minorities engaged in the business, and to develop a pipeline of talent so that I'm not telling my daughter, like my father kind of told me, you don't want to get into this business because it's because of the cyclical nature.
I love that. So tell me a little bit about how much you've expanded. I know before when we talked, you were in something like 17 different countries with Pink Petro. Tell me a little bit about the growth. And I understand you've also recently been to Congress and opened up a new career site.
Yeah. So I think before we spoke last, or right before we spoke, shortly after you and I talked last, I unfortunately lost my home and the business to Hurricane Harvey. And that was a huge learning for me as a business owner. And we live in the energy corridor, so in the energy capital of the world. But we were caught as a part of the West Side flooding. I thought I was going to shut the business down. To be honest, I thought, I'm done, I'm spent, I'm over. And what I learned through Hurricane Harvey was how to flex that muscle of resilience. And I knew that this was important work. And of course, it made it very personal because you do not get 60 inches of water in your backyard if there aren't climate effects happening. So to me, the work became even more important, and we decided to press forward. So we launched a new career site. We are now in well over 100 countries across the world.
Wow.
We launched Experience Energy, which is just experience.energy. We launched Experience Energy in 2017 to address the careers piece, because the thought is, in order to get more people into the energy industry, they need to understand more about the kind of work that's possible, and need to understand and see those stories. So much like you're interviewing me, we do a lot of storytelling around the jobs, around the possibilities, around the career options, and around all forms of energy. Right. You and I experience energy every day. Right now, we're having this conversation possible because of energy.
The
so
lights
we really
in the
want to
studio, all from energy.
Right, the lights in the studio, the makeup we're wearing. People don't understand that a lot of what we use today are components that are made from plastics and petroleum. And so while we are in this transition, people are very concerned about the state of our climate and where we're headed. The idea is I kind of call it E3P3. So my belief is through an equal workforce, not just men and women, but multiple generations, multiple cultures, multiple backgrounds, plus the environment, we're going to create this new economy. Sure. So you brought up Congress. I got a call about sometime in February. But Congress is really taking a hard look at what does that workforce of the future need to look like. Energy is a big part of the American economy. It's a huge part of the global economy. And it's also on everyone's mind. What does the energy of the future look like? And I thought it was pretty good on Congress's part to be thinking about what people resources, what human resources do we need to drive these natural resources, right? Because these natural resources have been in the ground, we've been developing them. And so I went to Congress, I brought my daughter, Allie, and so she fell asleep. So the chairman, I will never forget, the chairman said, I think your daughter has dozed off. And I thought, okay, this is great. My daughter has dozed off in front of all of Congress, or House members. Right, it was a great experience to be able to educate people about the fossil fuel industry, the various job opportunities we provide. And I got to be honest with you, I walked into that room really concerned that there might be a debate. What we do is contentious. I find the energy conversation is way over politicized, much like the equality conversation is over politicized. And when I walked out with handshakes and business cards and friends, because we all agreed that Americans the people that, you and I, the people that make up the fabric of our society should be the hearts and minds and the hands behind this energy revolution and this shift, right, from non-traditional fossil fuels to the alternative age.
And for those who are watching and might not know that much about the energy sector or the industry, they might hear drilling, fracking, words that, seem very intimidating. But the alternative age, the alternative industry, can you explain a little bit about what that means?
So the alternative industry, or the alternative side of the house, are wind and solar, and we see the increased use of electric vehicles, or what you hear called as EV. A lot of states are moving to solar power, right? And my argument to Congress was, this is actually the best use case or metaphor for diversity and inclusion. We need all forms of energy and all people looking at this. We're not going to enter this alternative age without the fossil age.
Right.
And as somebody who's personally been impacted, by a massive flood, I don't want my children's generation or her child's generation, to have to suffer through the things that, we have. So it was a really great experience to be a part of the private sector and the public sector kind of coming together to really learn and understand what we need to move the needle forward. Because you see a lot of arguing about it. You see a lot of politicization. You see a lot of policy. You see a lot of yak on one side and yak on the other side. But then you got to look to the middle, the progressives, right, to really move the ball forward when it comes to change.
So what advice do you have for women, for people just in the energy sector, in the industry, trying to make their way, trying to, ethically kind of come to terms with whatever they're trying to do in the industry, and also just trying to find jobs and be heard? And, coming back from struggles like you did with the hurdle with the, with the flooding and everything like that. What advice do you have for people that you want them to take away from watching this?
Well, so I talked about E3 earlier. P3 for me, the other side of kind of my manifesto or my thoughts, are all things are possible through people, passion, and purpose. So I tell people all the time, no matter what you do, because you're going to spend a lot of time in your day working, do something that matters. I think the energy industry is an amazing place to work. It's dynamic, it's global. It is political, unfortunately. And it's the single largest challenge that our generation is facing. So I look at that and I say, okay, I can get up every day and go work in support of that. I think you get up every day, you bite the elephant one bite at a time, but you do things that matter, that have purpose, and that you have passion for.
Oh, I love that. Well, Katie, thank you so much. I do want to tease your book. I know you have a book coming out soon towards the end of the year, Grow with the Flow. Where can people find out more information about that and about you if they have questions or want to talk and have enjoyed the conversation more?
So they can go to my personal website, katiemehnert.com, and it'll be out on all the distribution channels, Amazon, and all those wonderful technology channels we have.
All the good stuff.
Yeah, it only took me 20 years to write the book, but we finally got it done.
Hey, it's here now.
That's right.
Love it. Well, Katie, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And thank you for all you're doing to tell the stories of women.
Absolutely. I'm enjoying it. And I think that women in the energy sector is a big part of it as well. So thank you.
Absolutely. We're changing the world.
We are. All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us today. We hope you leave feeling inspired, just like I am. So we'll see you next time. If you'd like to nominate an inspiring woman, email me at sarahstrackhouse@gmail.com. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.